10, 15 years back, there were no support systems,
Uh,
there were no processes that
well, there
makes the
was,
struggle there was.
yeah. Actually, last week, the third week of August is the ADHD Awareness Week. So it's the 20th ADHD Awareness Week.
Ready.
Yes, so
Oh.
it's they I'm part of the ADHD Society of the Philippines, and
Mhm.
they've been around for so long, but it's just right now, or maybe give or take 3, 4, 5 years ago, that
Mhm.
the movement for ADHD, mental health, and other diagnoses that would fall under a learning disabilities,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. They would put
actually
it
just
under
started
that
the movement.
category. That
Yeah,
category that you're a person with disability because they have no
uh,
other means of defining it. They will just define you, you're ADHD, therefore you have a learning disability.
yeah, and but no, actually, the Philippines, it's not under learning disability; it's under psychosocial. So
My
I do have
son,
my
my
PWD
son's
ID.
my son's ID says he has a learning disability. It's
Really?
not, yeah, it's not
Nah,
psychosocial.
because in in more discussions though, ADHD would really fall under psychosocial because it affects how a kid or a person would socialize with their peers.
I agree 100% because when they think, when they make their essays without using Chat GPT, I can see I can see how deep my son's work is. And
Mhm.
you don't use Chat GPT when you discuss something on a one-on-one basis with an ADHD child.
That
And
an ADHD child's brain is much better. It's more colorful than ChatGPT.
Chat GPT. So
Yeah,
you're saying
so
that now support systems are in place,
yeah.
processes which, oh, okay, that's good, that's good. And so they can more or less show better at this point their strengths, their creativity, rather than be challenged by the lack of the system, the lack of a system.
Well, aside from that, there are also now laws that protect students with with disabilities, PWDs. There are laws that are there to help them
Mm-hmm.
succeed in their
Mm-hmm.
student life. Back
Mm-hmm.
then, I think the law was there already. I'm not sure, right? I've never really deep dived down on this topic, regarding the laws and the regulations in terms of education. But um, now schools can't say, oh, we can't accept you because you have this diagnosis or because you have this, whereas what schools can legally say is that we don't have the the accommodations, for you. So it would still be up to you if you would want to continue here, right? So that's like saying we can't accommodate you in a not flat out no,
Mm-hmm.
right? But before, in earlier times, earlier days, feel like a dinosaur saying that, um, years ago rather, this wasn't I don't think we have this, because I do remember there were schools and institutions that, oh, this child has ADHD, this child has autism. We don't accept children with this diagnosis. So that was years ago, maybe,
Yes,
15, 20
yes.
years ago. But
Mm-hmm.
now they can't say that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Like my son was able to survive school in a normal setting, even as he has ADHD. Now, let me ask
Yeah.
you, um, some people may identify themselves as neurodivergent
Mm-hmm.
because they have pathological conditions. And some neurodivergent people do not have such. So, how do neurodivergent people identify themselves as?
Okay. So I'm part of this group. It's an we are self advocates. So the Philippine Neurodivergent Self Advocates. No. So in
So, there's
our
a
group,
movement. Is that a movement or an organization?
it's an organization. So this organization, um, I think the there is no diagnosis needed for you to join the organization. So if you identify as someone with neurodivergent needs, then you are able to join the organization, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you ask me, uh, I understand that it's very expensive to get yourself diagnosed. It's like 2,500
Yeah,
per session minimum,
yeah, yeah.
and I don't know
It
how
was
much it is
already
right now.
3,000 pesos
I see.
in 2008.
Oh, see, that's it's very
Apart from the
expensive.
speech therapy, apart from the support, the
Yeah,
exercises. So you pay the developmental pedia or pedia,
yeah,
and then you pay the support person who will give therapy to your child. And in
yeah.
fact, he was, yeah, go ahead.
At the end of the day, you can't do those. You can't see a speech therapist. You can't see an occupational therapist without the diagnosis, right?
Yes, that's
So
true.
the for children, the person who has the ability or the license to give that diagnosis is a developmental pediatrician, and there's only so few of them in the Philippines.
Mm-mm.
Right now,
Yeah,
for adults, they have to go to a psychologist, and this diagnosis, it's not given to you after one session, right?
yeah,
It usually takes like 2 or 3 sessions before the doctor
at the
would say,
very
okay,
least.
I think you have this. I think so. It's expensive, and I understand that, which is why there is a movement for self advocates. So the self advocates, which be us, to push for reforms to make more inclusive societies, more inclusive, colleges and universities, more inclusive workspaces that is not limited to those people who have their diagnosis, because the difference between a diagnosis and a non-diagnosis is a PWD ID,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
So
But
how do you advocates create or define what a safe space is for a neurodivergent?
honestly, it's not much different from a safe space from a neurotypical person. What is the when if I ask you what a safe space is, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
That you're able to express yourself without fear. So it's
And
a
exactly,
fearless it's a
right? It's a
fearless situation that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a physical environment. It can be a social environment whereby
mm-hmm.
people are supportive, people are understanding, and
Mm-hmm.
people are aware of
Now,
such a situation.
if I ask you, don't you think a neurotypical person also needs those things?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
exactly.
course,
So,
of course.
so when you create safe spaces, when but the only reason why neurodivergence or the FINSA would be pushing for this kind of reform, or any other people would push for this reform on the neurodiversity or disability angle, is because if you push it from that angle, then you can get your audience. These people, disability inclusion, disability safe spaces are pushing for this, are pushing for safe spaces rather. But if you think of it, on like, if you take a step back, you'd realize it's not limited to them. If you have safe spaces wherever you are, whether it's a working environment, whether it's a studying environment, it's not just people with disabilities, it's not just neurodivergent people who'd be, could take
Need it.
advantage of this situation, right? Or
Mm,
of the spaces. Everyone would use the spaces. So
mhm,
basically, a safe space is just a place wherein you will have no fear of judgment and apprehensions. Because you know, here's the thing. If you work, if you like, you're applying for a job, and right now it's not a law. It's not mandated by the law to self declare, right? But I do self declare because one, I want people to be aware that I have a situation, and two, well, if they don't accept me because of that situation, then it's not a good place to work at,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
so
So
I do self declaration.
so